Welcome to another episode of the Post Plan Podcast, brought to you by BitcoinCasino.vip. Today's guest is one of the best commentators in esports. We've got Scrawny. I was going to say Counter-Strike, but I'd say extend it to esports, Connor. You're up for another nomination.
Yes, I lost.
Yeah, you lost, is it?
Yep.
Yeah, well, you never...
Scrawny, have you got any silverware yet? Have you got any trophies?
No, it's I get the nomination coins.
Yeah.
I lost this year. It was this year was the Captain Flowers, so I'm all for that one. Actually, he's a legendary commentator. He's definitely deserved in that regard.
He's League of
But
Legends,
I will
right?
say, I'm gonna shots fired immediately. The quality of the nomination coins for the Esports Awards has absolutely fallen off a cliff this year. I was pretty disappointed. Even if it is last place, I like the little coins. I put them on my shelf at home. My mother comes over, she looks at them, she celebrates them every time.
So, Connor, you're close to winning something.
But this year, it didn't say nomination on the coin. It didn't say what year it was for. It just said
it's a generic coin.
And it was 3D printed and had some like fluorescent colors.
No way, 3D printed. Come on.
Yeah, it was just.
It's got to be metal, guys.
No,
surely.
man, it was made of some kind of like it looked like a polymer. So
dude.
Yeah, so.
Before we move on, Dinko, have you ever been nominated for an award yet?
I was part of the broadcast crew for I Am Cologne. That was Sports Emmy nominated.
You're taking that one in the CV?
Yeah, I did put that on my CV. Of course I did. You have to.
Emmy nominated commentator.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Put that in there. You don't really need to know the details of it all. So is Connor. So
jokes aside, Connor's going to win one next year, and Dinko, I think you're going to be nominated. So it's all going to come together.
Oh, that would be nice.
HenryG,
I could get one of those coins.
He's the only guy who's ever won Esports Caster.
That's true. Thank you for bringing that up. Everyone else wins.
He was waiting.
Or color commentator. I'm the only guy who's won the Caster of the Year. 2019, probably the best year to do it before the COVID nonsense. Yeah. Everyone's at the peak of their powers. That's when HenryG took it home. And everyone remembers that one. That was the biggest
Henry,
one.
You're in Malta right now, but I remember a couple of years ago, Henry was moving out of the Lanshan, which was this shared house with Machine and Sponge, right?
Of course.
So Henry was living there for a while on his own, and we decided, while the ESL Pro League was on, he could get some free moving service out of his friends. So we went over to the Lanshan, and I'm like, Henry, what do you want to do with this? And I show him this giant Esports Award trophy.
Wow.
He looks at it, and he throws it in the bin. Just drops it in the trash can straight up. And I'm just like, well, fair enough. Okay. And then Alex Machine comes downstairs. She's like, yo, that's my esports award in the bin.
Okay. For context, it had like rusted and rotted away due to the humidity of Malta. And it was just fair. I thought it was mine. And I was like, it's starting to fall apart. It's all rusted and shit. Like, we might as well just get rid of it. It's done. I didn't realize it was his. We had so many awards going on in that house.
That's true.
It was difficult to keep track of who had won what. But that story is accurate. I did feel like a bit of a twat throwing in the bin. But it was a funny story, a good anecdote we've got to this day. So I don't regret anything.
No, not at all. Well, like I said, Henry, you're in Malta right now. We're live from Budapest. The major's been going on this first week, Connor. Do you know which number of majors you've done now, or?
This will be my 7th consecutive major.
There we go. Of course you do. All right. What's been your favorite one so far?
That's a good question. I think they come, there's highlights of each and every one of them. I think to this day, Antwerp is still really high up there just because it was the first. And I think like getting to your first major is, by the way, congratulations. First real major as well.
First real major.
As the role that you perform.
What do you mean by real major? When you're actually there in person, not remote?
So remote once.
Okay.
Also doing interviews for Paris, and that shouldn't have, no offense.
Oh, right.
Happened.
Interviews in Paris, damn.
I don't blame you for saying yes to it. You're a keen guy, and we all should be. But let's be real, you weren't used to your strengths. Your strengths are what you're doing here. So again, congrats.
Yeah, the analyst test gets
You'll remember Budapest for the right reasons as well. But that, and I mean Paris. Paris will just be special because I enjoy CS2, but I fell in love with CS:GO. And to get the chance to send off CS:GO in Paris, I think was a really special one. So for me, it's Antwerp and Paris.
Yeah. Something we like to do is talk about casting philosophy once we get casters on here. We had Harry on. So obviously, I think you have a different style to Harry. So obviously it'd be interesting to sort of pick your brain on that. One of the best things about I think your work is everyone appreciates the intros into the finals. And would you say that's kind of your piece de resistance, in terms of your casting? Is that your biggest sort of standout performance, you would say?
So Yes, I mean at its core, yeah, I would think so. So the way Launders kind of put it to me once, right, was like once we tried to establish ourselves, once we very early on decided like how we were going to do this stylistically, role wise, etc.
Hmm.
It was just about getting good enough at those roles to get hired for majors. Get hired for the big events, get in. Like you need to become good enough to be considered towards the top. And I feel like we got there. And once we got there, I didn't really have like a direction. And I remember Launders one day just asked. He said, "What will be your PhD?" I was like,
Okay.
what? But for those not familiar with university, like your PhD is like what you research and what you prove on your own, right? It's your own individual push in academia. And so I guess like as far as casting went, I thought to myself like, okay, well, where is it that I can, maybe push a limit or something, right? We all want to stand amongst the greats, but then once you get there, what are you going to do with that time? Because it's fleeting and it's not forever. And I thought, damn, how do I improve on what others have, in still my mind, already done better than me? And I just thought the most, you can never control what's going to happen in a game of Counter-Strike. You always want to be well prepped for the teams and the players that are in the server. But the two things you will do every single time you get, quote unquote, your biggest moment of your career, you're going to have to do an introduction and you're going to have to do a close. And so those are two things you can prepare for, and in an industry and a job of like so much uncertainty. That's what makes Counter-Strike so exciting, is you never know what's going to happen once the game goes live. I'm somebody who finds a lot of comfort in control. So knowing I have something to lean back on in those moments is where it kind of started. And then, yeah, I think like, Paris was a layup for me. It's still one of my proudest moments just because it was special to be able to speak French.
Yeah, that was, you were very, perfect for that.
Yeah, like that kind of felt like it was supposed to happen
Mm-hmm.
in that regard. I think, also spent a lot of time in Copenhagen and Denmark, and I'm very proud of the way that I closed Cadian, winning Blast Fall Finals one
Yeah,
time.
that was good.
And that's just like the stories coming together, and so I take pride in those two
Just
my casting,
just to talk about the preparation a bit, Connor. Obviously, with the introductions and like trophy lists and stuff, you're obviously preparing quite hard for that. When it comes to more of, let's say, like big moments and clutches, and like let's say someone like Simple or whatever's going to be on the server, are you going with prepared lines for the individual players or ideas and narratives that you have, or it's like have you got the actual kind of prep written down? How do you approach that kind of philosophy going into it?
I would say that's part of casting that I still haven't really nailed down in my own head. There's been lines that I've gotten canned, for a really long time, and in my mind it was like this super epic line that like I knew if I dropped at the right time, it would elevate that player's moment, which is what it's always about, for the record. It's always still about, I just want that person, because I know that let's say Donks 1v5 this year, he's gonna watch that back over and over again. Every player will, especially the guys who you don't expect it from, right? Like we know they're just rewatching those. And I want those moments to feel special. If that's the play of their career, then 5-10 years from now, they'll look back and, they'll show that to their kids. It's their dad on stage getting, highlighted and an entire crowd screaming for us. So I want them to be special for the players. And I think that it's good to have something in your back pocket, but I've learned that in my mind, I might have something fantastic. And then in the moment, either it's not properly applied because it's too prepared, or it's at the time maybe just like it's not, it's not as easy to latch onto as I thought it was going to be. So I still have a hard time actually pinning that down, Henry, because it's like you don't want to be too prepped, because then you might over practice and fumble the words, and if it's too, like, I find when you prepare things, I end up getting like really long-winded. For example, like in Shanghai with Malbs for G2, the clutch, in a night sky full of stars, the supernova shines. That wasn't for Malbs. That was just kind of for somebody on G2, right? Like that's just a line that I had thought of once on a plane. That's where I like to do my thinking, is on those travel days where we've got, nothing really else to do and you're just kind of isolated off the internet. That's where I just think about stuff. And I just love, I thought it sounded poetic, it felt cool, and then it applied to Malbs in that moment, so I threw it out. So I think it's nice to have things in the back of your head.
Just so I know going forward, are you writing these down in like a notebook? Like when you think of something nice, that's stuff I always think of these sort of ideas, but I never write them down. I think that's where I'm.
Yeah, I always put them in my phone notes. You know, if anything comes to you always have your phone on you, so
true.
Just pop them in there.
I like the editing process of having pen and paper, because sometimes you'll think of a line, you'll write it down, and then you don't use it in a game. You know, say that play never happens, and then next time I prepare for that team. And this is usually, for the big games, for playoffs and stuff. I think like these lines work best when the background is a roaring crowd.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It feels a little weird to drop like your epic ones on a studio game when it's just then flat on the other side. So I like to go back, and it's like sometimes I'll forget that I had something for a certain player.
Hey, but sometimes they use those group stage clips in like the arena or something, and then it sounds sick because you get the music behind it and everything, and it still works out. But yeah, in the moment, it's not as legendary.
And I don't think you want to over apply that prepared side of casting, because flowing in casting and just being in the moment
much of it
so
much of it is that as well. Sir. And I think there's been so many times where I've prepared a line or something, and it's like you're so focused on getting that out that sometimes it's always more about how you say it more rather than what you say a lot of the time. And there's been times where I'm saying something and then I should just be reacting, and you should just be feeling it. And I think that's something we talked about when Harry was on the stream or on the podcast. We were talking to him about it, and he was saying, he used to be so heavy prepared, and now he's trying to just have a general idea where he wants to go with it, but ends up just, reacting more emotionally and more in the moment. And I don't know.
I think it's more genuine that way. Isn't it? Like that. I remember when I first worked with Harry, we had that anecdote last time when he forgot his notebook coming onto the big stage of me in Sydney, and he was like having a panic attack before he came on. I was like, dude, like you don't need the notebook. Like you're a play-by-play commentator. You just say what's on the screen. So I think finding the balance of preparation and being in the moment is very important.
Yeah, I like the idea. Like something that I've found and is that I agree with your philosophy of you can prepare the intro and the outro. But those moments, it's like, it's hard because you want to feel in control. I'm the same as you. Like, I want to actually, going into a game and having nothing is quite scary because you like, what if something happens? Nothing comes to mind. At least if you have something to fall back on that sounds okay. But then sometimes I've learned it's just that there has to be different tools that you use. What are some of the sort of tools that you've discovered that you needed to develop in casting? Whether it's like elongating and just to catch a moment to think, or
sure. To me, it's shortening these kinds of lines, right? That's something that I actually worked a lot on this year, and I think I've got a couple of examples of it in the past where like the idea of prep, because I think ideas and like I love poetry. Like, I mean, not that I'm writing or reading poetry, but I love the poetic side of casting. I love the way that a player's story can come together in a moment. So I do like these lines. I think they're very much me, and I'm going to be unapologetically me. It's my philosophy. So I think that, like, for example, Welcome to Wonderland, Blast London 2024, right? When Wonderful gets these crazy shots inside a Nubis B bomb site. That's one of those lines that like doesn't feel overly prepped.
No.
But I did have that in the back of my head, and it was just waiting for that time. This year I had Mattis, G2, London final again. He gets those 3 ridiculous headshots in brackets of Inferno, and I said, puts the VAC in Slovakian. That's a line that I actually had for Frozen. But there's only 2 Slovakian players, and when Mattis got to the grand finals, I realized, like, you know what, this still applies.
Yeah.
So that wasn't even me overly prepping for G2. It's just having these kinds of things. It feels like I've got a loaded gun, and I don't want to pull it all the time. But like, it's nice to know it's there, and just kind of slot that in. So
you ever start to run out of material though? Like,
like
you need that refresh because happened.
Dude, that's why G2 was so refreshing. I was really happy with that game. Heavy God, like Vitality just met their maker. Heavy God, like just these. You can finally play with new players in those realms where you never get to cast them before because. I had nothing really for Mongols in Austin, and I felt bad about that a little bit because I didn't quite know where to go there. But it's like we had cast them so much that or it's just like players that nothing jumps off the page. I love Vitality's story this year, but by the end of casting them, it's like, how do you close another Vitality?
There's no superlatives you can go to, yeah.
Right? It just felt like we were kind of passing the torch. I remember you said, what was it? Something about building an empire.
Yeah. because I continued on because I watched because they win every tournament. I thought, why don't we just make this like a continuous story? So I went back and looked at your trophy left moment from the previous event I watched, and I kind of followed the same. I think you were like marching forward or something like that. So I just continued this idea of like global domination.
Yeah, because they went to North America and won an event there.
Yeah. So it was
yeah,
another continent or something like that. So it was kind of fun. I enjoyed that. That was I think that's the other thing about Vitality winning can be kind of boring because everything you can't really say much more about ZywOo because he already has all the nicknames, all the lines have been dropped on him. There's no one really else on that team is gonna have that same level of aura. So yeah, you just gotta find new ways of making it interesting that Vitality is winning.
But sorry, to answer your question, when you said like tools for casting, I think it's just it's pay attention. Pay attention to the events you're not on. That always helps, right? There's been times where I've kind of come into an event without maybe watching one off, and I mean that's fair as well. I mean we all deserve time off, right?
Yeah, I was about to say that. Like it's difficult to watch every event because then I feel like you get burnt out. I try and watch as much as I can, but I took some time off this stage one of the major. I'm like I'm not watching Huns versus Vision for example. Yeah, I'm deciding on I'm not doing that. So I think like you have to keep your head in the game, but like to an extent. Like otherwise, I think you get burnt out and maybe sick of it.
Well, you know what? I think this is another thing. Okay, this is speaking of tools, and also to your note, Henry, of like kind of just looking away from the Counter-Strike for a second. I think finding value in whatever else you decide to go do, and then coming back to Counter-Strike and using that as fresh material. I know, for example, like Henry, you're a lover of other video games. We've both played Days Gone, kind of.
Yeah, true. That was good.
When I go and play these other games, or it's like when I'm really obsessed with like Magic the Gathering for a few months, there's words in Magic, you know, Scry, Vigilance, Haste, like these ability names. And it's like, even just taking that and kind of bringing it back, or finding something that's thematic about Magic and that world, and returning to Counter-Strike and using that to just keep your casting fresh, or, you know, I like that as kind of a tool, because then it ticks that box in my head that is like, you should be working. And when I'm not in the Counter-Strike obsession, which comes and goes, and I think that's healthy. That's sort of like a tool as well that I want to apply. Is just like finding value. You know, go read a book, go watch a TV show. You know, the amount of like Sopranos references I started making, having watched that this year. Yeah. And not just like references for jokes, but just the colorful language they might use.
This is absorbing other art.
Yeah, exactly. Imagery, and I think imagery is really powerful in commentary. So that's something I definitely learned from Launders. Was make use of the media that you're consuming or whatever else is occupying your mind.
That is a good line and a good lesson for all of us, I think. Are you still playing Battlefield 6, Connor? I saw you're a big fan of that.
160 hours, dog.
No way, dude. You love that shit. Holy.
Max level multiplayer. Well, not max level, but they only give rewards up to level 100. So
I saw some of your clips. You're pretty good at it.
I'm pretty nasty. Spent a lot of time playing Battlefield. I did a.
Are you doing controller out of interest?
No. Absolutely not.
All right. God, I know you do like a controller every now and then.
Think of me, Hank.
You do. You play Halo with a controller. I'm not sure.
I do play Halo with a controller. That's fair.
But that's Halo should be played with a controller. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think controller's ass in any game, but the aim assist in Halo is ridiculous.
I don't know. There's a lot of story games, Henry, that are just way better with a controller.
Fair. Anything that's a third-person adventure game, Days Gone, I'm going to play with a controller. I'm going to put it on the big screen with the surround sound, lay back, kind of.
Oh, I can't agree with that one. Days Gone, you've got too much aim reliance in there. I like to be able to 180 and jump around. And
Days Gone is actually the prime example of a game that I played in so many. It was such a good game. Something like 60 hours, I think, by the time I was done.
I did the DLC as well.
Yeah, right. You have to. It's a good game. So I played that on. I started it on my Steam Deck. I switched over to my desktop. Played mouse and keyboard for a little bit, just because my monitor is so good on when I was home. Right, it's just better.
50-inch.
But the Steam Deck's for the travel. The PC for when I was really locked in and, like you're saying, kind of maximizing aim. And then I finished that one off cinematic on the couch and the big screen downstairs. Nice. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dinko, what about you? You playing any other games recently? You're not much of a gamer, I would say. More of a CS man.
More CS for me. I don't know. I like story mode games, but I haven't really been able to sit down and like enjoy any of them.
You haven't been home for about 3 months, so you've got a MacBook on the road, so it's not like you can do much.
Yeah. You're right. I've been watching movies mainly. Okay. That's the way to consume art.
What's been a banger for you recently?
Ooh. I think I watched Overlord last night, and it's it's like we'll say a World War II super soldier kind of thing.
Right up your alley.
Yeah, horror. Yeah.
Okay.
It's good. It was good. So that's what I've been doing. I'm gonna have to start gaming again in the new year though, so I'll get that
Okay,
sorted.
well,
I want to play Arc Raiders, bro. I want to play
dude,
that with you, Henry.
I was just about to say I've burned myself out on Arc Raiders. I did 75 hours in like a week. Um, I was here like it was just after we finished work in like Bucharest and stuff. I had like a week off before I went to London to film, and I literally was like 7 days in a row, 10 to 15 hours a day. And it's a great game. It's fantastic, but there's like no end game content. I don't think they design video games these days for no lifers like me to actually just sit there for 15 hours and just do every bit of content and unlock every single skill tree and option and level. And it's a really good game. It's really interesting, like combination of PvE and PvP.
Yeah.
But like once you've got everything, I've got every blueprint, every item, a million credits in the bank. It's just like, what do I do now? Just go out for the PvP. And the PvP is not really strong enough
Yeah.
to sustain the game until they add more content. But yeah, like gaming's getting to a position now where people are kind of sick of these AAA titles like COD, Black Ops 7 just came out. Everyone's hating on it. I think they can't just phone in AAA titles anymore. They actually have to provide good video games because they're being challenged so much by the indie studios.
Yeah.
And it's just a really exciting time. I think going into next year, we're going to have so many great games to play. It feels like we're having a bit of a gaming renaissance right now.
Yeah, well, hopefully next year we have a lot of exciting games in Counter Strike as well, Henry. And because there's one player that's like you and Arc Raiders has completed everything, and that's
Oh yeah,
Gla1ve, right? I mean, this is a
true.
player
Smooth.
that went on to
What a
win so
segue.
many majors, so many events, but there's got to the point now there's nothing left for him to do. So he's retired from playing. He's now
Um,
become he wants
I'm
to be
not
a
sure
coach,
that was the
Henry.
reason. I wouldn't say.
You know
he
what? I can frame the narrative Henry, in this way.
I
I'm
feel
doing
like
it for Gla1ve. You know, if we just forget everything after
I think
2019,
he stayed 2 years too long. Unfortunately, I feel like it just didn't work out. I feel like he um, kind of faded away rather than went out in a blaze of glory. Had a couple of good moments in that ends lineup, like a couple being the operative word there. A couple of interesting results, but ultimately a revolving door of players and qualifiers and the occasional win. And it felt like he never really found his individual form again. Tactically, didn't seem to find himself in CS2, I would say. The team just felt like they weren't really ever doing anything. I think this is the best possible move for him going to a coach. I feel like he will be a very hot prospect. I think that's a role within CS2 right now that is missing a lot of big names and people that could actually fulfill that. Like you look towards like FaZe, for example, right now, it looks like with Neo, that was an interesting idea to bring him in, but it feels like he might be on his way out. You saw Taz towards G2 as well. It didn't really work out. I feel like Gla1ve could actually fulfill this role as a former player. Just the question is whether he goes to a top team. Does he go to someone like 100 Thieves, for example? Like, I'm not sure where he would fit in, but I feel like that's where he's supposed to be rather than playing.
I agree entirely. I think that I'm happy you bring up FaZe immediately because it's like, no offense to Neo and Taz, but those are two players from a certain era. And yeah, I think Taz is always kind of just coming in as an open mind and like wanted to apply his experience, whatever. But Taz was never a part of the Astralis core, right? I mean, that Astralis team is just a whole other level of accolades and accomplishments. And you're dead on. Maybe extends play a little too long, but whenever it comes to like great players like Gla1ve, I let him have it. You know, I can only imagine how difficult it is to hang up your mouse like that.
Yeah.
So if you fizzle out a little bit, okay, cool. Let's say individually, not meant for the server. If we talk about a short list of teams that could benefit from Gla1ve, I do hope actually that it's FaZe Clan. I do think that they need somebody who knows how to win again. It worries me about whether he can kind of gel with superstars when we always talk about how his success on Astralis was that, you know, they all did it together.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that looked like from an ego point of view from the inside. But I mean, if anybody doesn't think that Gla1ve is just going to make any team better, I think they're, you know, criminally wrong. Or hear me out. What if Maus just need one more coach?
Yeah, from the
Cyclone,
core.
Zipex, and Device goes over, or not Device, well,
And Device.
Okay. I like that.
You heard it first.
and Gla1ve goes over as support, and then like, you know, that team I think needs to know how to win still. So I feel like he's valuable. Find his value, and
oh, he'll have a lot of options.
yeah,
for
surely,
sure.
hopefully.
Yeah. I think the 100 Thieves one sounds like a great move in terms of it's a new project. You could have the new IGL attempt with Rain. You got Gla1ve as a coach. Like these are two people that you put trust into, but also is going to be learning on their own, right? Building a philosophy together. You don't have two people coming in with like, you know, there's a coach that's been doing this a certain way for so many years, and an IGL has been doing it a certain way.
Connor,
So
what event was it where we were going go-karting in like Qatar or something?
Yeah,
or Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi,
we were in
surely.
Abu Dhabi, yeah.
Abu
in
Dhabi,
Dubai.
yeah, and like there was some sort of beef between Maui Snake and Gla1ve, and
Yeah.
like they bumped into each other at go-karting. What was the context there? I can't remember. Like Maui been talking shit about him.
I mean, you know, Maui
does that a few times.
There were some opinions flying. They were out there in the internet, and whether it's you know, Maui's like Maui will be a stickler for the specifics, which is funny because he came on here and said that I didn't get any good golf shots. So
True.
he forgets the
say that.
specifics when it's good for him. But he was going to the vending machine while we were waiting our turn to go karting, and then while he was standing there, probably making a tier list of the snacks. Gla1ve came Gla1ve came in the room and just like approached him one-on-one and was like, "Hey,
we need to talk." They went outside and had like a proper one-on-one chat.
Wow.
Yeah,
and they couldn't be any more different in height, you know? Like Gla1ve's this giant, tall Danish dude.
Yeah, I remember Maui just came back over to us after and he was like, "That was a constructive conversation." And in Maui's defense, the thing was, I think it was something like, "Hey, dude, like you're claiming something without actually coming and like talking to us about it." And players love that. Like players love to be like, "Well, you just got to come and ask and we'll let you know what's going on." But then Maui Snake literally showed me that he had DM'd Gla1ve and Gla1ve just never answered.
True, I remember that. Yeah.
So it's not on like Gla1ve was wrong. You know, I know his he was obviously like insulted about something, but it's like, well, you claim that we can just clear it up if we approach you, but then you literally just ghost him. So it wasn't Maui's fault.
But apparently they had like a amicable conclusion. Everyone was happy, and Maui even said, "Damn, I can't even talk shit about him now. He was such a nice guy."
Yep. I think that's how it should go. It's like it's so easy to make a villain in your mind on the internet. But then we do spend a lot of time face to face with players, so let's just let's shake it out.
Yeah,
good luck to Gla1ve. That's all I say. I wish him the best, and maybe the 100 Thieves. I think that's the kind of project I would say get under the ground floor of something great.
Yeah,
a lot of resources instead of trying to fix the shit show that is FaZe right now. We'll get into that later. But like I would say, get into something like where you can actually have some direct input. You're not kind of dealing with egos and kind of previous victories and legacy. Like get in something that's fresh, and you actually have some runway to work with.
That's why if he goes to 100 Thieves, and I think this will serve as a segue, but if he were to go to 100 Thieves, I really wish 100 Thieves would reconsider their reign as an in-game leader situation. And I know that maybe that was the plan when he went over there and he wants to have this willingness, but like, does anybody want to see Reign's individual level fall off because of that responsibility? No. And there's a new option, Hank. There's a new option on the market. This is breaking news. Stanislaw in-game leader, Gla1ve as a coach, Reign do Reign things, and build it out from there with Sean Gares and Messiotto. This is a powerhouse now.
I totally agree with you. I think the reason Reign said that, and he said it to me in person when we were back in Belgrade, I think it's because he wanted to provide some self-preservation for his career. Now he's got the 100 Thieves contract. I don't think he saw that coming initially. I don't think he has to be the in-game leader. I think you're right. I think he's bought himself at least 2 years of being like not necessarily a star player, but a headline player.
Yeah.
And he doesn't need to go straight to the in-game leader role. I think that was more of an announcement of knowing that he's hit his 30s now. People aren't necessarily believing that the level he can bring in. But then he had that kind of stint coming back into FaZe, standing in for them for a couple of events, at Pro League most notably. That's when he still played world-class Counter-Strike. So I think with that and now having the comfort of 100 Thieves being their headline act there and the franchise player essentially, I feel like he doesn't have to be in-game leader. And I think that's a really good opportunity to, bring in Stanislaw, bring in Avuzi, and actually have a really impressive team that makes sense in terms of the roles instead of crowbarring in people to do things because they feel like they need to buy 3 more years left of their career.
Yeah, I think for Reign as well, it's probably hard to know what kind of offers you're going to get if you've been part of, 2 organizations your entire career.
You're so unfamiliar with changing teams that you just, I'll do anything.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Does anybody outside of FaZe really want him? And I mean, I spoke to him as well. He had a lot of good options. So I think 100 Thieves is obviously the most tantalizing one you could have had. How lucky is Reign though? He plays for FaZe for a majority of his career, and then he goes to 100 Thieves. It's
who have got so much money right now as well. I think Nadeshot has got into bed with multiple gambling companies. They've got a headline sponsor. I feel like they've got a lot of resources. They're one of the most successful orgs on the planet right now. So I'm super happy for Reign. It worked out like that. And they've got Graham Pitt as well. Shout out to Graham. He's an awesome GM. He's going to be doing a great job of making sure that no one fucks anything up. He's a safe pair of hands.
he's the best person to try to enter this new system with VRS. You know, people always kind of tout like this difficulty that is building a roster from the ground up, and how new organizations can't enter unless you're just sniping a core that already has your VRS established. And to be fair, that grind is incredibly difficult. Like, we saw it this season with teams going to all these lands they otherwise would have never been at. But if you've got Graham on the ground, there's no way you make a miscalculation, which, coming from FaZe Clan, we know there was that whole debacle right as Rain was going out the door, and he's not going to have to deal with that if Graham is on the scene.
No, absolutely.
And they've got Sean Gares as well. It's a pretty star-studded lineup already.
It's kind of everything's going on over there at 100.
I feel like they just need to sign HenryG next.
Yeah, just to bring it all down to
you can tell everybody, you know, like the salaries, Henry, and really make it something.
Yeah, guys, if you consider releasing everyone's salaries, just to kind of get
you get hated on, Henry, for doing something cool.
You were ahead of your time.
Well, you know who they are looking to pick up. Apparently, the rumors are the GamerLegion core. Now they are available for the rest of the year, as they are now out in stage 1 of the major. A shocking result for GamerLegion in terms of the way that they lost, the teams that they lost to in stage 1. Not necessarily massively surprised that they didn't make it, because they haven't been playing very good this season. And, you know, has been AWPers. I like that Slen did a tweet where he was like,
that was crazy.
Hey, GamerLegion, maybe one more
good
AWPer
tweet.
change.
That was crazy. I did always like Slen, but like, dog, imagine this, right? We all saw the elimination wall segment that they were going through, and he, in that moment, wrote that tweet. Like,
while they're at the choir wall.
It's players on the brink of tears, funeral music's playing, and Slen goes, you know what? Fuck these guys.
Get one more AWPer.
I mean, it's brave. I'll say that.
Yeah, doing it while having the GamerLegion logo in his Twitter banner and his.
Yeah, exactly.
It was so good.
Unreal.
But yeah, Henry, we casted a little bit of GamerLegion earlier this year. We casted Kersey. Then I've casted a little bit of Hypex. You know, they obviously had AWPer problems, but now it's way more than that.
Yeah, it feels like whether that's on their mind, whether this this rumored move to 100 Thieves is coming through, we're not sure. But overall, the level of CS they showed this event was pretty woeful. It felt like they didn't really turn up. No one was really firing on all cylinders. Rez looked pretty underwhelming. I feel like tactically they looked like they were a bit all over the place. We talk about them seeing like nerves and kind of looking a bit shambolic when the pressure's really on, and losing to some teams. Like that game against Paravision they went out to. What was the last game they had? Paravision.
That was Legacy as Paravision as well. So
yeah, I just felt like they games they should have closed out, choked it at the end, and just couldn't get it over the line. Like, there was some moments, like just talk about the AWP situation. I think Hypex had some great moments. It looks like he does have the mechanical ability and clutch factor to step up for this team. I don't think it was the AWP's fault this time. It just felt like some of the household names, like the Towsons, for example, didn't really show up. And it is like, you could see how tilted Ash was by the end of it. I'm not sure whether that's because he knows his hands are tied with this core leaving the organization, or they just choked in a big moment once again. They've done it so many times this year. They had a great first part of the year. The first season was really good, but they've looked very streaky, very inconsistent for the second half. And it seems like the headline of every tournament is, oh, we know how to win these games. We just can't bring it together. Our mental goes when it matters most. And this is when it did matter most as well. They're one of the absolute favorites to make it through stage 1. It's an absolute travesty they don't go through.
I mean, one of the 3 teams in the top 20 for this stage of the major, right? And that's FaZe, Legacy, and GamerLegion. So FaZe ultimately the only one of the 3 to move forward. I think what's weird about this GamerLegion result is just that this season was one where Towson was turning around his year. You're dead on. Like, their first half of this year was more successful as a team. And PR's conversation this year should still be, I think, very much in the spotlights. But it's just odd that Towson was one who kind of stepped up. And we had that duality to GamerLegion, right? You had PR's entries on T sides. You had Towson's CT sides being enough, so it seemed. But then everybody else kind of swirling around them. It didn't quite click, even with their interviews kind of stating that Hypex coming in fit them. You know, they've immediately said, like, Kersey's style doesn't suit us, and they cut that guy so quickly. I don't even think I cast him personally. That's how short-lived.
Oh, I did every single one of his games, and I was not happy with it. Like, it was
all right.
Henry really wasn't happy. He really wasn't.
At EWC, wasn't it? Dinko, I was like, God, this is one of the worst showings I think I've seen from an AWPer on Inferno.
Then we got to cast him at Fisher.
And he was good. Of course, he was good there.
He got kicked at that event.
That's the event. That's the thing. I think it was just a mental thing for him, because at Fisher, commentated all of his games then. He looked lights out. That's the event we knew he was being kicked. So I think it was just him in his head. He wasn't ready for tier 1.
I've never seen Ash react the way that he was in the end of their elimination game versus Paravision. I mean, Rez had a donut clutch in a 1 versus 2 where he didn't peek bomb to stop the defuse.
Yeah.
And he was low health or whatever. But I mean, it was one of those moments where it's like, Rez, you've been in a million clutches. That's what you bring to the table. And then the camera cuts to Ash and, you know, reading his lips, he literally just said, "What the fuck was that?"
Like, I didn't see,
you know,
that.
And his mic is closed, obviously. So, but I mean, it was so clearly what he said. You go 1 round later where they're now facing eliminations, ETRs in a 1 versus 3 in a post plant. It's a winnable situation if you believe. Ash has literally turned the other direction.
Yeah, I saw that. Okay, that's true.
So I've never really seen him kind of get that emotional. And he said in the post game with Banks that like it's because he takes up the responsibility and that like this is his fault. But I mean, I think. And listen, emotions are running high. I'm not going to armchair psychologist too hard, but like you say it's your fault, it's your responsibility. And then in the moment, you're asking your players, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
You know, that it definitely feels to me like you're putting the blame and the criticism on that player in that moment. You know, there's cameras on you. You've got to be aware of how you're acting in front of them.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe is just kind of like a curtain gets pulled back in a highly emotional moment, and we start to see that like there is a bit of disjointedness between him and the core.
Yeah, I think when you bring back to the rumors you mentioned, Henry, of if this core do move to 100 Thieves, I think to come back from 0-2 down, GamerLegion have done it in the past. Ash has been a coach of teams that have done it in the past. You know, the Paris Major is a perfect example of different team, obviously, but Ash was that. You know, so he knows it's possible, but you have to come together as a team and actually believe in it and actually be like a full squad. And I think when you know that you're not moving forward with the team, it's probably really hard to get into that mentality of like, all right, let's stick together and get this job done. And
do you feel like
scratch for him?
Do you feel like Ash missed the trick, not signing to a bigger organization,
yes,
like
absolutely.
a tier 1 team?
Yeah,
like
I think his stock is fallen now.
Yeah, I feel like now it's like I don't think he has the same respect he did last year.
Or even earlier this year. I think earlier this year, there was a point where we were talking about Ash maybe being one of the best coaches of 2025.
Yeah.
You know, or like or at least his onboarding process and getting the most out of less valuable pieces. Like there was really that talk. And then when we see, what was it, a 6-year extension with GamerLegion?
Was it 6 years?
6 years.
5 years maybe? Like
that's crazy work. Why would you do that?
Extension. It was one of the longest extension coach contracts, if I recall correctly, that I can remember seeing. And it's like, you know, if you extend with, let's say you extend with Gla1ve for 6 years. All right, cool. That's an organization that's been at every major. They're not going anywhere, right? But like, if GamerLegion are losing this core and you're stuck there for all this time, even if Ash does have value, and I'm not saying he has none, who's buying you out of that, brother?
No one anymore.
Right?
Yeah.
Coach buyouts are a very rare sight. I think Saw is probably the only one to go to G2.
Yeah,
he got kind of sold off with the heroic guys. So it's kind of nerve-wracking, I think, if you're Ash. And
yeah, I think it's probably the worst timing as well to re-sign and then have your core riflers.
I'm gonna look actually for the Ash extension.
Move off. Yeah, it's a rough time, but I think he absolutely missed the trick there, Henry. You know,
I felt like his stock couldn't have been higher. He could have got. I think he could have been in there for the Team Liquid job.
Could have been.
He would have thrived in. I think that would have been a great.
Well, you know, that's what we think on the outside, and maybe players talk behind doors and closed doors, etc. And maybe they have different opinions on it. But you know, absolutely from the outside looking in, it looked like Ash was in a position with the credit to potentially be signed from one of these big organizations. You know, maybe if it was earlier in the year, if you're signing this core from GamerLegion for 100 Thieves, maybe you bring Ash over to the organization as well. You know, and obviously that is not looking like it's not going to happen.
I might just be making things up. It's a
okay.
It's
I don't recall that.
It's a ghastly multi-year contract.
Okay.
Right.
But I suppose that could literally just be 2.
I would say that's probably 3 years.
Yeah, If it was only 2, they would have said it. So, but still, 3 years signed at the end of 2024. It's going to be a rough 24 months.
Yeah. Well, we've seen how hard it is for GamerLegion to recruit new AWPers. Now they're going to have to recruit 3 new riflers if that move does happen. So we'll wait and see if 100 Thieves liked what they've seen at this major.
Yep.
Maybe they looked elsewhere.
What they saw, yeah. I love that when he turned his back on the team. That was awesome.
Yeah. So that was great. Ash wasn't seeing much. He was seeing the sponsor ball. We have Legacy also getting knocked out of the first stage of the major. Now, this is shocking because this is a team that I've really enjoyed watching this season. You know, coming in, they had a great Austin major. They were surprising. They weren't meant to be there. etc. And then obviously they come into this season, they don't come to lands, they're not high enough in the VRS, they don't make it to these events. Then we finally get to see them get the season going, and they get into position to win a trophy very quickly. They win CAC out in Shanghai, they won it over 3D Max, which was one of the better teams of this year. And then Legacy going to a final, and you got to cast that one, Connor, against Aurora. I think the tenacity and the ability to pull back in that BO5 and extend it. Legacy could have reverse sweep the BO5, which is absolutely insane to say. And then to watch them go to the major as the favorites to go 3-0 and end up getting knocked out, it's wild.
I think that the Bucharest victory, or sort of second place grand final, I think that though was like the epitome of Legacy style capitalizes on the mistakes of their opponents, right? When we talked about their Bucharest run, you had four players in that team were in the top 5 clutchers of the event. And you get to that 5th map, absolute barn burner, 24 rounds, map 5. It couldn't have been any closer. They just win the one event prior, where again, it's the same style in terms of like the explosiveness and the aggression that has kind of made Legacy a bit of a fan favorite this season. But ultimately what ends up costing them, I think, this is to give them like a little out here. I think losing to FlyQuest in the opening game, like rough, but also, damn, okay, you decided this is a team that thinks it can play a 7-map pool, right? And they've always said that like they believe that having a 7-map pool is a good way to avoid the upsets from challengers in these kinds of vetoes. Well, this is a perfect instance where that 7-map pool betrayed you. I don't think they were ready for Train, and so you go down in the 0-1. Which then leads you to the end of the road where you're going to get these gatekeeper teams. But let's look at the list of teams that played yesterday in the 2-2 games. And I'll just ask, does Legacy beat Fluxo?
Yes.
Yes.
Legacy beat Imperial?
Yes.
Does Legacy beat NRG?
With Daps, yes.
Does Legacy beat FaZe?
Probably 50-50.
Probably no. Come on,
right?
Look at a FaZe struggling against everyone.
Point being, of the 5 opponents that they could have gone up against in the last day, this is a Legacy that we say straight up beats, the majority of which. The only problem is that their play style, which has provenly pushed them to these deep runs, like as I said, relies on capitalizing on opponents' mistakes. You went up against Jame yesterday. And Jame doesn't make those
the old
mistakes
master
at its core, right? Yeah, exactly. The old bastard that doesn't go down. And me and Mohan have always said when we cast him, like, you have to learn how to beat Jame. You just don't get to beat him out the gate. And this is a Jame who came in with really good form, who brought this, again, 4 major debutantes out of nowhere that showed shakiness in their previous games. Totally understandable that as an 18-year-old, you'd be nervous at your first major. But yesterday, they didn't make mistakes. Jame won 2 clutches critically at the start of Ancient, right, in the first 4 rounds. And that was a game where Legacy didn't win a single clutch. So from Bucharest having 4 of the top 5 clutchers, this is Legacy's style kind of betraying them at the final hurdle. And if they had just putted in a game over Imperial, we wouldn't have to speak of them as if there was like a funeral moment. So when I look at GamerLegion, I look at a team where I go, whoa, you've got problems. When I look at Legacy, I think, damn, it's a shame they didn't go on, because I think everybody would have celebrated Legacy and Paravision qualifying to Stage 2. I don't think they're going anywhere next season. I don't think there's going to be any huge roster changes if they decide they need to. And they've also made at least $1 million this season. This is the best time of their lives in terms of Counter-Strike, and I think mentally they still feel that way at least.
I think they've got, I totally agree. The fact that, sure, it's a disappointing finish to this major, but the year 100%. They had, definitely amazing. The fact they got it, sure, they didn't get to the Austin Major the way they wanted, but they were there, and they had an impressive run. They've won a trophy, a couple of grand finals in the mix, another major. Sure, didn't get to Stage 2, but like looking back to where they were at 2024, I think you take this year and you're very happy with it. I feel like they're a promising team. Sure, they've got their flaws like every team in this level does, but don't think they need any massive roster changes. I'm happy to see them do well. I think it's an interesting organization. It's one of the newer ones with Dead as the CEO, the former coach of MIBR and stuff like that. I think it's an interesting project, and I hope to see more of them next year. Like they've proven themselves to be a deadly team at the top level.
Well, Legacy won't move on to Stage 2, but we will, as we'll talk about which teams now come in. We've got Aurora, Gla1ve, Astralis, 3D Max, Liquid, Passion UA, M80 are obviously made it through. So I'm excited to see all these kind of teams shaking it out in Stage 2. But the big dogs are definitely the Auroras, the Gla1ves, 3D Maxes, Liquid. When we're looking at this side of the tournament, I guess we can start talking about who we think might be a 3-0 team in the pick'ems.
Okay.
because Aurora did get the win, but I never have confidence in Aurora right now. Do we think they are a team that are capable of a 3-0?
Dude, they're going up against M80, who went 3-0 in stage 1. They are looking so hungry. Lake is looking impeccable right now. I feel like in a best of one, I might even favor M80. I think Aurora have been streaky, inconsistent, unreliable. I'm sure that they had some good tournaments as well, but I feel like a red hot M80 beats lukewarm Aurora in a best of one. Just my personal opinion. I feel like they are not a safe 3-0 pick. I think M80 might take them.
With Aurora, I feel like it's crazy, but it's always just the day. There's a world they send M80 to the Nether Realm and remind them why they're coming in at stage 2. You know, this is a team that just lifted a trophy. But even when they lifted that trophy in Bucharest, that wasn't even. I'm watching them lift a trophy, and I'm still not confident.
Exactly.
So no, I would not put a wager on that BO1 at all. I do think there's a world where M80 could still, or excuse me, where Aurora do 3-0, but like you'd be a fool to put anything on it because it's going to boil down to the day. I would love to see like a 3D Max actually just come out swinging and
I think 3D Max is a great shout for a 3-0. I think they do really well in the best of ones. They're normally great in that, and they should get those 2-0s no problem, and then they'll have the easiest game, I think, to close things out. I think 3D Max is the lock in for the 3-0. I think they'll only have troubles going into the next stage of the tournament when the games really matter. We have a lot more high-level competition. I feel like this is where 3D Max might actually show us they can be this world beaters and get the upsets.
Well, you know, the thing about 3D Max is if you're basing your pick'ems off of what we've seen from their last tournament, you're looking at results. I think you have to have very important context is the fact that 3D Max had been to China 3 times in 3 months.
Exactly.
So they were at that point extremely exhausted. They flew from Shanghai to Bucharest, played in the Bucharest tournament, then flew back the day after they lost to Chengdu to do the next tournament. So 3D Max have had some time off, at least with a last place finish at that event, to get ready for the major. And I think they're going to come back in refreshed and play some of the Counter-Strike we got to see from them earlier on in the year. And I'm really liking 3D Max. I got to see way too many of their games this season. You know, I was getting a little bit sick of it, saying, you know, Gravity and Exorcies, and I was, you know, but Exorcies. But I enjoyed watching them play the majority of the year. And I do think that coming into this, I think we can call them a potential 3-0 team. So we'll lock that one in. I guess on the other side, who is going to be the other 3-0 team?
I'd like to say Gla1ve, but they're going up against FlyQuest in the opening game, and FlyQuest are looking unbelievably sharp right now. Vexside's like top performer in stage 1 of the tournament. It seems like as its contributions, the role changes, and individuals actually finding their form, and most notably like Netic and Vexside, we're not even relying on JKS and INS anymore. I feel like this is a team that could actually cause Gla1ve a lot of troubles in the opening game in the best of one. So you'd like to think Gla1ve are going 3-0, but that opening game is a real doozy. I'm not sure they'll be able to close it out.
3-0, Henry?
Maybe, you know, I think they look really sharp. I think that's just what they needed, because like we've seen them look better. When Azza came in for their first tournament, it was like, okay, cool, we can see some signs of life here, but they choked a couple of key games. They had huge leads on them. I think against Liquid, they were 10-2 up in Bucharest, and they threw the game away. But since then, the role changes and Vexside being the star player I was always told he was going to be, I feel like he's going to be a real nuisance for everyone in this stage 2 of the tournament. So I'm not sure about a 3-0 for FlyQuest, but I think they're going to the next stage of the tournament for sure.
I'd co-sign that one. I love the new look from them. I think it's awesome that, you know, how long did we talk about FlyQuest without a coach?
Yeah.
And then you get a guy like Azir who shows his value immediately, and FlyQuest break that curse, right? I think 2 majors in a row going 2-0 to 2-3.
Yeah, right.
They were, I mean, there's nothing in this world they wanted more. When they again went up 2-0, they had to win that match. You cannot let it happen a third time. So I think now everything almost, I think their aspirations are obviously higher than stage 2, but it surely to them feels like they're playing with house money, because at least they broke that curse. Speaking of other 3-0 teams, man, call me delusional, but I think with the seeding, because that's the difficulty with these majors, right? Is like you look at Aurora. We just highlighted that Aurora and Gla1ve, top seeds of this stage, they've got difficult opening.
Yeah, so if you're the number 1 seed, you play against number 8 instead of number 16, right? That's the way it works.
Or 9, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, right.
But I'm looking at, you know, that's why I like the odds of like team 3 and 4, you know, 3, 4, 5. Give me a team Liquid. Why can't Team Liquid start off? They begin with Bait. Bait have looked shaky as all hell.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Bait this tournament.
I love cheering for Bait. I think, like, you know, they are the team that is always also on the brink of having something. But this is Headtrick's statistical drop-off from Season 1 to Season 2 of this year has just been, unfortunately, too much. I think in what was supposed to be a critical player for the team. You know, their in-game leader, Alex, I believe, just came through with like an interview on HLTV where he said like, yeah, the coach asked me if I would be IGL because I'm the oldest on the team. And I said, yeah, I'll give it a shot. It's like, it's a formula that,
wow.
you know, when you look at a team of young rifles like that, let's contrast Bait to Paravision. I think on one side you have Jaime and Doston leading that project and raising everybody else in their environment. Right. You look over to Bait side, I don't see that leadership. And I think that when the pressure gets on at the major, that's where things are going to start to fall apart. And in contrast to, I like what Flashy's done with Liquid.
Yeah.
I think this is the time Liquid sticks, man. I think Liquid actually get through this stage pretty convincingly.
They've had more time, Henry. They've had more time.
I mean, more time with Elige. Elige hasn't looked that great since he's rejoined the project. No. I'm hoping that with the aforementioned time factor coming in, he can actually look like his former
Nerds has looked sick. That's what I was going to say. Nerds is looking much, much better already.
Yeah.
So I could see Liquid going 3-0 at this tournament, especially because
I think that's fair. Yeah, I actually don't mind that.
Opposition is not that good in stage 2.
And they open up versus Bait again, so good. Go for it. Strong start.
Yeah.
I think that's not a bad show. Yeah, Liquid 3-0. Let's do that.
Let's do some 0-3s though, because this is where things get interesting. I think Tyloo are going to go 0-3.
Yeah, I was the first one I was about to say, 0-3. Yeah. I'm sick of it. I was really a big fan of Jam Young. I was calling the best rifle in the world at one point for some reason.
Well done with China. China's going to be every Chinese team.
China number 0.
Because I mean, there's already 2 in Rare Atom and Lin Vision. So
another one.
I think this is Brazil's turn. I think both. If they could, okay, I'll say it this way. Whichever team loses between the opening game of MIBR Imperial is the Brazilian team that goes 0-3. And then the other one goes 1-3.
I agree. I would say Imperial will be my second choice for the 0-3. So yeah, I think I'm with you on that one.
No offense to them. Like you drew NRG in your 2-2 match.
Yeah, true.
I think for me, MIBR, they're only saved by the fact they're playing with that Klim guy. So, like, maybe he pops off a map or 2, but, like...
I forgot about that whole situation with Kicker and everything. That is just not looking good.
MIBR were gross to watch. Earlier.
Yeah.
The thing is, they haven't played with, like, a consistent roster in a while, so...
Yeah, they were playing... What was that kid's name who was from the MIBR Academy team?
They have Breno and Burn or something.
No, it's called...
BRN and BRN is that.
I was casting him so much. What's his name?
Yeah,
Bruno is called.
Bruno and Breno.
And we called it all Born Rich because it was BRN $.
Okay.
So we called him Born Rich.
Not bad. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the first time we'd ever played. But yeah, they looked woeful, and Kicker looked pretty bad as well. I don't know. That was obviously withstanding, but they're not replicating the Furia magic. Is all I'm saying.
No,
they're trying to, but I don't think it's going to happen.
And then be Kicker versus Molodoi, it just doesn't work like that. Paravision, I think are going to do decently enough, but so the team I think are going to go 0-3 are Tyloo and MIBR. I think those are the 2 teams I think will be 0-3.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I think that's dead on. I don't think we're going to be wrong. I agree with Connor. Those between MIBR and Imperial, probably MIBR. So yeah, Tyloo, MIBR would be my 2 picks as well.
So we're moving on to the last segment of the podcast, Connor. This is called
the best one, arguably.
Yeah.
What is it, sorry?
It's called counter stocks, right?
Counter stocks.
We have a buy, sell, hold, right? We do one each. We buy something we think might have an upside rather in the Counter-Strike scene, whether you think it's a player or a team or anything really that you think is going to have an upside and could go up in value, and then we hold things that you think could go up and a little bit, or you're willing to hold on to it, see how it goes, and you sell something stocks. You absolutely hate it. I'm just saying for the fans at home, to all you out there,
idiots.
We don't pluralize here.
Oh, sorry.
We have our viewer over that
singular.
But yeah, so we're getting into this. Is there anything you're interested in? Buy, sell, or hold? We'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, immediately. I'm selling FaZe.
Oh, here we go. Let's get into it, Connor. Why are you selling FaZe?
Man. I think, look, it's a team that, they haven't started successfully 3-0 at any major since 2018. They have also then gone on to make every playoff, I believe that's correct, since the Rio bomb out. But I think this is going to be the Rio 2022 of CS2 FaZe. I think this is where they kind of just trip over their own 2 feet. Watching them play Overpass versus Ninjas in Pajamas, Launders said it was the worst FaZe clan he's ever seen. And Mohan's usually somebody who, he's not a romantic, but he will call it how he sees it because he thinks it's important to stay true to what is on screen. I watched a team get caught inside of that B bomb site the same way to Wrinkle's same peak at the start of the round on the same timing, 3-4 rounds and a half. They didn't go for a single B-site boost as CTs on overpass throughout the entire regulation. Not one time did they take a look over the wall into short water overpass. And I have to ask why, because you want this forward setup. That's great when it's working, but it didn't work at all. It just feels like they are suffering from the absence of rain. They said they needed boot camp and time off in between events, etc.
Had it now.
I just think this is going to be their next Rio, right? It's going to be that shakeup, and I don't think that this project is ultimately going to work out.
A crazy thing to say. I think them beating Fluxo is the worst thing that could have happened to FaZe. I feel like them making it to stage 2 and it not going to be a complete revamp of the project, crashing out in stage 1. I think that had to happen. I think they need to rebuild it now. I think they need to remove some pieces and work out what the next steps are, because now everyone's going to start believing, oh, the magic's there. We always do badly. It's it's not like you got unlucky. You look shit like the entire time. Like, you just got it over the line against Fluxo, for fuck's sake. Like, what are we doing? Like, come on. Like, the fact that he won that game, I think, is actually a bad thing for the FaZe project. I think it buys him a bit more time.
I don't even think it's gonna be like give more time. I think some of these pieces might just leave. You know, like, why would Frozen want to hang around in this dysfunction?
Well, yeah, like, you got Frozen and Twist. Let's not be like, let's be clear. Like, Frozen and Twist still look amazing. You should be able to get through stage 1 with just those two. The way they're playing right now, you should be able to get through. But the fact that Brokey is looking like he is rolled back the years once again to 2024. Don't know what's happened there. Like, when he first came back in the FaZe, he looked lights out. We're like, this is the kid we were missing. Or what happened to this guy? And he's looking shit again. You got Jacob. I don't think it's a fault of his own. He's just not ready for this sort of pressure, this sort of scrutiny. And he's not ready for this right now. And he wasn't the right pickup.
Mohan pulled a stat out of his ass yesterday that was Brokey's 0.86 rating at this. He had a map where he went 0.86 was his rating at the end of the map at this major. It was his second best map in November.
Yeah, that's right. That's so crazy.
He's been on a run. He's been on a run.
What I mean? Like, when he came back, he looked fantastic, and we thought, good, okay, all he needed was that little checkout, rebound, come back in, it's all good.
No.
I do wonder, like, one of the things we say about FaZe is that from an organization standpoint, it's never like long-standing contracts. It seems like it's easy to leave when you want to. Rops is a perfect example of that. Twist was a perfect example of that. What's stopping Frozen? 100 Thieves comes knocking.
Oh, that's a good shout.
There's big players in the space right now, man. There's big players in the space, and so
he's probably at the point where his contract's coming up for renewal, I would say, as well. He's been there for like 2 years, maybe.
And I'm not saying he's going to be the first guy to jump ship, but what if all of a sudden, he followed Kerrigan here? There's no denying that, and he kind of joined, I think, a sinking ship. Rops was able to get off of that ship on the very first lifeboat. Twist's left, came back. There's times where it felt like Twist was trying to call from again, like the outside POV. Let's say, I'm not saying Frozen is the next piece to just like abandon, but if he starts to get wind that like, okay, Brokey's got to go back on the bench and they're going to bring in another rookie, and maybe Kerrigan no longer has the belief of Twists on his side, well then, okay, what if we start making Twists more, dude, if I'm Frozen and I feel like there's more and more cracks occurring, get out. Look at what Rops did in his departure. Went on to be the most winning team in history.
Kerrigan's individual form as well. I don't like to beat him up too much. It's just it's getting like worse and worse. Like, he's playing outside on Nuke now. Like, what are we doing? He got like 1 kill on the CT side when he was up against Fluxo, and it's like, Ark got like 20 plus frags. Kerrigan gets 4, and it's like, holy, what are we doing? Like, that's the most important position. And Kerrigan, the reason I bring it up is, I'm not saying he can never play outside on Nuke, but he was actually one of the few positions I thought he was pretty decent on individually, was upper bomb site on Nuke. He actually was good for 1 or 2 kills in that position. I have no idea why they made that decision to move him outside.
Losing Rain is just like the heart of FaZe is ripped out. Kerrigan is a player that you can see in the games when things get tough. He's always a player that feels like he needs to make the difference. He starts getting aggressive. He starts being a playmaker. He's probably looking at the team going, well, there's no one that's comfortable playing outside on Nuke. We lost Rain, so I'll just do that. And they just don't have the pieces to compete right now for FaZe. So I agree. Selling them is probably a good time to do it. At going into stage 2, this will probably be the highest they're at for a little while. we'll get rid of them now.
Yeah. It's such a sad state of affairs.
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna buy Jame, because right now, like, dude, you watch VP that didn't make it to the major. It's almost laughable that you. I know it is laughable. That you allow Electronic to in-game lead instead of Jame. You get rid of Jame, and then you bring in, and then Electronic decides he's not gonna call anymore. You let a guy who's been out of the game for over a year perfecto call, and that's what Virtus Pro decided to do. And I'm glad they're not here at the major, and I'm glad James here. Like, this is, and
that's true.
It's such a sick redemption.
He's brought all these like rookies up to the major, and he's got them into the next stage. Over Legacy, a team that were just winning events like around a couple of weeks ago. James is just brilliant. Like he's just a brilliant player with a great philosophy of the game. You might not like watching it, but it's just incredible that James, what he's doing right now, and I think this is a great time to buy him because you look at what he's done with these players. It's incredible.
I think you buy them and you hold them because it's, like you're saying, hilarious that you look over at Virtus Pro, cycling through coaches left, right, and center, cycling through in-game leaders now. Well, you had the in-game leader and the coach you needed in Doston and James. And showing, again, right now that this Paravision value happens, I think the reason you buy them, Dinko, is because the power comes in the long game, right? Hold as long as you can. And this week, has proven that James will show evolution. That's a word that we really threw around in the cast yesterday a lot, because there is a more aggressive look to this version of James than before. And I think that's him understanding that CS2 innately compared to CSGO is a faster game. Him kind of taking it on the chin, taking a step back, understanding that his system that he applied in CSGO didn't work as well or as well as it needed to in this version of Counter-Strike. So he finds new promising rosters that are willing to buy in. I did media interviews with Paravision where I just had to ask them a simple question of who is the best in-game leader of all time, who's the best coach of it all time. Every single Paravision player within a split second answered Doston James, Doston James. And I think it's because, again, this is James' cult. You have to buy into it. And he can get these young aspiring players to buy into his system because it works. So the fact that he's shown that he can go down to the doldrums of tier 2, tier 3, come back, this just means to me that for as long as James and Doston want to compete in Counter-Strike, they're going to stick around. So yeah, you definitely buy them, and you just hold them forever as long as you need to. I'm not saying that they're going to go on to stage 3 at this event. These are major debutantes. Totally understandable if they struggle in this next stage and fall short. But what's incredibly important is all those VRS points that they just secured off Legacy. As Doston said in his post-game interview, this is them securing invites for 2026. We're going to see way more Paravision, which means James and Doston, which means now is the perfect time to get in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm not going to top that, Connor. You've succinctly tied that one up. So I'm going to move on to what I'm going to be doing here, boys. I was going to buy this, but I'm going to hold it instead, I suppose, just because we haven't mentioned it so far.
Okay.
OG with Cadian and Flamus. The latter, especially, I think Flamus has been absolutely destroyed by the aforementioned VP as well. Yep. So I feel like he is an absolute world-class talent who's great on camera as well. I think it's a blockbuster signing for OG. And the fact they got Cadian as well, who's on his absolute last chance. Let's be clear, like no one's that excited about Cadian, but we know he's hungry. We know he is dedicated, and we know he's passionate. And with his last chance, his last ticket here in CS2, I feel like this is actually quite an exciting prospect. He's going to be the AWPer and the in-game leader where he needs to be. It's not going to be a mishmash of roles. I think they're going to give him full reign of the project as well. Flamus coming into it, I feel like he is one of the most skilled riflers we have in CS2. If you give him a chance and let him play his game and you don't stick him in as a lurker or an anchor player on the CT side, you actually give him star roles, he can be one of the best players in CS2 with the rifles. So give him a chance and give OG a chance. I feel like there is a convincing case to be made about Cadian and Flamus together with the kind of who else they got? They got Aris Dorsey, Adam B, Spook as well. Like the other three names I'm not that excited about, but let's see if they can bring together a stable roster that can cause some upsets in 2026. And like we said, last chance for Cadian, redemption story for Flamus. I'm not sure about you guys, but I'm going to hold on to it and see what happens.
Yeah, might as well. Might as well. There could be an upside. I'm not massively confident in it, to be honest, because unlike James, I don't think Cadian has shown that he can go and do it again in different projects.
Well, I don't know, man. I'm thinking back. I've actually always believed in the Cadian of these underdog stories. I'm thinking of like Cadian when he played for Rogue, for example, right? With Hiko. Like Cadian is always, I think Cadian is one of those guys that loves when the world is against him. I just think of Cadian shirtless in California at Flashpoint, having no idea what his future was.
Why are you thinking about that?
Because I think of him as the underdog, man. And if that wasn't his, life low in terms of Counter-Strike and his career, then that's just where I think Cadian's fire exists. And listen, he did it with the heroic guys. They much like a James, kind of bought into his system.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You have to buy into the system.
And his aggression reinvented it. So now he's back on OG, where I think, these are players that are going to have to buy in again. You know what I would like to, this is a small variation. I wish I could attribute to this to wherever I saw it. Somebody else said this online first. It's not my idea. But I would rather actually see Cadian go the road of Fallen and give up the AWP if he's going to make this happen. because Cadian
He
on
already
an
did it in
individual
Astralis,
level has proven that when it comes to opping, he has not figured that out in this game.
You say that, Adam, but in Astralis, he would double AWP every single opportunity he got. He did not give it up. Like, honestly, every time he could, he did bring it out. It's just like, dude, it just doesn't work anymore.
James, for example, had a lot of critical op shots, and that's somebody who I think had to kind of figure this game out and figure out the gun again. And in his post-game interviews has even said, like, I can't focus on my... He was asked, like, what do you say to your players in all these tough moments to get them to stay focused? That's what Donna asked. And he goes, words are useless. I don't say anything. I have no words for them. They have to focus on themselves. I need to be the best op I can be and the best leader. And Cadian has tried the same application in still being the best op, but there is no proof whatsoever that in CS2 he's figured out this gun. So, you know, maybe give him another shot at it, but I think that with a team like that, you know, you're going to want to weaponize some kind of specialist. Flawless is an amazing rifler, but you've got to pair him with a strong opper, and it doesn't feel to me like Cadian can keep up. So I'll hold OG. 100% co-sign that one, but I would love to see Cadian just kind of put his ego aside and say, all right, I can lead a new group of people back to tier 1 events, but I've got to do it with a star sniper, and I hope OG are willing to make another big signing.
Well, I'll add to that. It's just there's no good AWPers out there to pick up right now, at least to clear to see, and that you can see GamerLegion have been struggling with that. He was just on OG.
Oh,
they just got rid of him.
Bring him back.
Bring him back
for one more.
Actually, hold on. We're gonna, you know that movie we made for you and Katie? We're gonna bring you right back. So yeah, he is gonna be AWPing, and we'll see how it goes down. But it's been a great episode. Anything you want to say, Connor, ahead of the major stage 2, 3, and then playoffs?
Anything to plug?
Thank you, Henry. Miss you, Henry. Thanks
for
having
miss you, Henry.
Miss you guys too.
This is actually the first time I've ever been on a podcast with you, Hank. So I was
really
looking forward to this. Yes, sir.
I guess I don't really do podcasts in general. This is the only one I do.
So I wish you were here in person, Henry.
Maybe I will. There's a chance I'll come out for the playoffs. Although Dinko, I'm not sure you're going to be there. But Scrawny.
No, we're never allowed to be in the same place right now, Henry.
Don't you get my hopes up, Henry. Don't play with me like that.
I might be there.
Hey, we could call in, and I could be on the other side this time.
Yeah, I'll give you the keys to my apartment. You can come in the studio.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll do that. I live next door anyway, so.
I think I hope the games deliver. I think, like, you know, Counter-Strike, we always want majors to be that extra bit special.
Yes.
It's been cool seeing StarLadder improve because day 1 was a shit show.
Yep.
I hope that the improvements keep going towards playoffs and that we can just end this year on like a super high note because it's been such a sick year of Counter-Strike. It'd be a shame if the games didn't deliver now.
We're going to end on a podcast, that's for sure, here at the Major. Looking forward to it. Well, BitcoinCasino.vip always bring you these episodes, and this is another one for you to consume. The post-plant, it will be back. We'll come back with another episode talking about Stage 3 and all the happenings that went down in Counter-Strike over the next couple of weeks. Looking forward to seeing you guys then.